Fa la 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 la. This is take two of today. Fa la 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 la. Let's see if things can go my way. Fa la 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 la. Season 18, episode 3. Fa la 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 la. It is April 22nd, 2026. I'm testing sound. Let's see if people can hear me. La 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 la. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I am your host today, Shantae Charles. I am a little bit still on the sore throat side. I did share on my page on Monday on the Black Table Talk Facebook page about a procedure that I had that went awry. And so I'm still sort of recovering from that. So my voice is going in and out. That is why my throat is a little still sore and my voice is a little still scratchy. But we are in Relationship Wednesday. It is Relationship Wednesday, and if you're here with us for the first time, you can go through our playlist and find our previous podcast seasons. So if you want to catch up, if you want to go back and see what kind of books that we've read through and covered and discussions that we've had, feel free to find our Daring Dialogues playlist here. There are several of them. Again, we are in season 18. Today, we are back and we are looking at these books on Wednesday. We are actually wrapping up pretty much both of these books. We're probably going to wrap them up before this season ends. And then we'll be starting a new relationship book that we'll sort of choose from together. So we have Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab, and Drama Free, A Guide to Managing Unhealthy Family Relationships. And in the family category, we have been talking about troubleshooting relationships with children. And today we're going to be talking about things you can't control, and common reasons for strife. Things you cannot control and common reasons for strife. Now, this section goes on quite a bit, so we're probably going to hit it again on next Wednesday because I don't want to rush through these topics. All right. The beauty of having your own space to have conversation is you don't have to rush through the conversations if you don't want to. All right. So let us begin. Things you can't control. You can't manage aspects of your adult child's life, and giving them space to grow up and be their own person is healthy for the relationship. Adult children are, most importantly, adults first. Even when a parent disagrees with an adult child, sharing that opposition can cause damage to the relationship. It can. Shifting into a relationship between two adults can be uncomfortable at first for both parties. The adult children struggle not to offend, while the parent tries to figure out their place in their adult child's life. But remember that when your children are young, you're raising future adults. That can't be said often enough. I'm going to say it one more time. Remember, when your children are young, you're raising future adults, not future prisoners. Not future criminals. You're raising future adults. You're raising future citizens. That's what you want to have in mind. The parent-child relationship tends to shift as children become more autonomous, as it should. The initial shift begins when a child is a teenager. as they begin to spend more time away from parents and with friends. Next, children move out of their parents' home, start serious romantic relationships many times, and maybe have their own children. In each phase, parents relinquish more control over their children. It's unhealthy for a parent to maintain the same level of control over adult children as when they were younger. There we go. All right. What to do if you want a healthy relationship with an adult child? What do you want to do? Here are some helpful pointers. Give them the freedom to make their own choices. Give them the freedom to make their own choices, encouraging them to figure things out without you giving them the answer. You want your children to make healthy decisions without your input. Here's another. Practice asking. And really, this is some advice that anybody can use, whether you have children or not, and you're just trying to have healthy relationships with adults. Do you want my opinion? I just had an incident this morning where we were talking on my page or having a discussion. I shared a post where someone was trying to justify intimately assaulting women by trying to claim that if a woman is unconscious, then she didn't not consent because she's unconscious and she's there. So you can imply consent because she's unconscious. That's what the person was ultimately saying in their statement. And the person came into my space and they said, I'm confused about what this person is saying. Somebody help. And I proceeded to try to help that person um, between a 4-hour period. I would come back and try to respond to what they were saying because they kept saying they were confused. So I thought they wanted help because that's what they wrote. But it turns out they actually did not want help. They wanted their bias or their confusion to be confirmed. And so even though they asked for help, they really didn't want help. And sometimes you're going to come across people who do that. So practice asking, do you want my opinion? If you think it's necessary to step in, ask. If they answer yes, let them vent and work through solutions with you. Number 3, stop telling them what's best. You've raised them already. You're no longer in raising mode. Now, I want you to think about that because how many people have adult children and they still treat those adult children as if they are in raising mode? And let's put a caveat there because if you are essentially still taking care of your adult children, providing for them, giving them money, being their primary place of residence, and they're not contributing in any way to the cost of that, then you might still be raising some of your adult children. But for the sake of this conversation, that's not what we're talking about here. Okay? Technically, you're not really raising them anymore. So, here's some advice. Create new rules of engagement. Traditions change, desires change, and as a result, how you engage will shift during the relationship. When children first move away from home, contact may be more frequent. As they find their footing, however, twice a day may become once a day and end up becoming once a week or less. For me, when I went off to college, I went off to college at 17, and that was really the last time that I could say that I had a home with my family. Like I would come home on the breaks, but I typically would stay for a few days at my grandmother's house, which was not where I grew up. I would stay with my grandmother because I had a better relationship with her. And so I would not stay at my former home. So for me, I feel like that sense of responsibility and that sense of you don't have a place to go back to for me started when I was 17 because I knew that when I was going off to college, I wasn't going to have a home per se to return to. So that feeling can happen at different ages. For some, it might be, hey, the last time I was in my parents' house was at graduation and I went off and now I'm doing my own thing. For some others, maybe they went back home after college, you know, got a job or began their career and they were still living at home. So that dynamic is going to be different depending on what your detachment was leaving home. Okay. Here's another one. Stop holding who they used to be over their head. Let your children change. If they were like me, I can only talk about me. If they were the hard headed, you know, sometimes getting in trouble, um, maybe showed up irresponsibly, or at this point, people might say not having good executive function or good organization skills, and your child comes back and they're older, they've grown wiser, they have worked on discipline and developing skills. Try not to hold who they were over their head. And sometimes that in itself can become an issue when you're trying to build a new or a different relationship with your adult child. Sometimes people don't want to be reminded of their flaws. They don't want to be reminded of their awkwardness in their childhood stage. And I do know that that's an issue because a lot of times people say, hey, I don't want to go visit my family or I don't want to go back home because when I do, they remind me of the immature, awkward self that I was, or they remind me of my mistakes often, or they turn my youth into a joke every time I visit. So it doesn't facilitate me wanting to build a present day relationship with them because of that. So let your children change. Don't guilt trip them into being the version of themselves that you liked the most. When somebody says, for example, you used to call me every day, but now you're too busy. Well, that may absolutely be true. It doesn't mean that that child loves you less. It might mean they have more responsibilities right now. So stop holding who they used to be over their head. Here's another one. Learn to share. Your children will get married. Your children will have in-laws, partners, their own social life, their own social network of friends, and careers that will cause shifts in your relationship with them. Here's another one. Make room for boundaries. We're talking about what to do if you want a healthy relationship with an adult child. Make room for boundaries. Parents aren't entitled to unlimited access to their children. Now, I know, especially for parents who are really, really, really close to their children, it might take some getting used to that you no longer have unlimited access to your child. That no, if they are married and have 4 children, you might not be able to up and call them at 3 o'clock in the morning because you just miss your baby. I know that's an extreme, but yeah. So make room for boundaries. And the last one here, be the change you wish to see. Parent says, my children never call me. Your therapist might say, are you calling them? And the parent might say, no, they're too busy. But if you want something different to happen, make the first move, let your expectation be known, and see where you all can meet in the middle. When you think of a parent's healthy relationship with their adult children, consider how adults treat other adults in their life, including coworkers and friends. Ideally, there is mutual respect, or should be, understanding and room for differences in those relationships. Parents' relationships with adult children thrive when adult children are given the same considerations as other adults. And good morning. Adult children still need parenting, mothering, and fathering. You never outgrow needing someone to nurture you. Now, there are some parents that might disagree with that. I can tell you mine being one of them. There are some parents who feel like when my child turns 18, I'm going to let them go into the world. I am no longer in the parent role. I might be a friend, I might be a guide, but I'm no longer in the parenting role. There are people who believe that. They say 18 is the cutoff. I'm done being a parent. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to have a good time. And then there are those who understand that you never really outgrow needing that nurturing part of the people who brought you into the world. Some adults are abandoned because their parents have stopped parenting them in adulthood. I can clearly and honestly tell you that is the case for me. um, I have not been parented by a parent in adulthood. Um, for me, I developed I would say a pretty good relationship with my father before my father passed away in 2010. We had a really good relationship. I was enjoying it. I did not grow up in the same household as my father, so it was really special for me to be able to build a relationship with him before he passed. Um, yeah. But when it comes to my mother, she has not been in my adult life since, I would say consistently, since about 2011, 2012. So yeah, do I feel that absence? I absolutely do. But I'm very thankful that I have elder women in my life, my great aunts, some of my aunties, that bring that mothering figure that I can call on, talk to, get advice about. But directly, I don't have that. I don't. And so I don't try to pretend to have that going on when I know I don't have that going on. I think it's beautiful if you do have that. If your parents are still here and you still have a good relationship with them and you can cultivate that, by all means, I encourage you to do it. Because once your parent is not here, you're gonna wish that you had some of that time. Now, of course, the caveat there is if your parents were abusive to you, obviously you're probably not running to go and have this adult child relationship with your parent. But I'm talking about people who have had great relationship with their parents. If you can cultivate that in your later years and be able to receive that nurturing and that wisdom and that advice from your parent, and they're still around and they're still alive, by all means, I encourage you to do it. Parenting is a lifetime commitment. And again, everybody does not see parenting that way, but it really is a lifetime commitment. Some people just think the lifetime stops at 18, and you can tell. A person can be done raising their children. However, other needs still exist. When you become an adult, your needs look different, but they don't disappear. Remember, Parenting adult children is about supporting them, not managing them. And again, the caveat there is you have made the the transition to adulthood where you are footing the bill for your life, right? Because if your parent is still managing your finances, if they're still, being the major supporter of your finances, this dynamic might be harder to achieve because your parents still feel tethered to supporting your life financially. Okay. Common reasons for strife. Mm, mm, mm. We're only going to talk about two of them today because there are lots of them here. I'm going to talk two of them. Common reasons for strife. Excuse me. Parents can't choose their children. Well, technically they can because they can choose whether or not to bring you into the world. Loving them no matter what won't resolve the core issues, though. You can love people and not like them, and you can love people and not want them in your life. Personality, temperament, and life experiences all determine the quality of the parent-child relationship. Substance abuse, mental health issues, different lifestyles that don't align with what the parent believes are common reasons that parents report challenging relationships with their children. Unconditional love doesn't mean that a parent has to tolerate any type of behavior. Especially all relationships, even parent-child ones, come with conditions. So let's talk two of them right now. One of them is substance misuse, and the other one is religion. Man, these are two of the major things that can cause reasons for strife within a dynamic. And I can speak on it because growing up, watching my parent, my mother specifically, deal with and battle with her own substance misuse, at the time was tobacco, nicotine, and alcohol. And seeing the dynamic that played out between she and my grandmother and all of the conflict that arose from that substance misuse was a whole movie in and of itself. And then religion. And I find it interesting that these two are the first two here listed because religion was the other contention. My grandmother was a missionary. She, traveled. She did itinerant speaking and teaching. She would attend different prayer meetings and offer assistance with praying with people, with doing what we call altar ministry, where, once that person has accepted Christ or is coming up for prayer, maybe they're there for a long time, and she would sort of be the person that would be attending to those people at an altar. My mother, by the time my mother got of age, she was like, I am done with religion. Because again, because of my grandmother's faith and because of her own calling to missions, she took my mother and her siblings everywhere she went. She never let them, stay with someone else or anything like that. So wherever my grandmother went, her children went with her. So for my mother, it was religion overload for her. She never really got a chance to just breathe. And then being one of the middle children, I would say, she was then responsible for the younger children. So you have sort of, I'm watching my younger siblings. I'm having to go to all of these religious services. So by the time my mom had me, She told me straight up. I remember this. I was like 4 or 5 maybe. And my mother was like, I don't believe anything about God. I'm not I'm not telling y'all to go do anything with a God. I remember her very clearly saying, um, I'm not telling you what to believe. My Y'all are not going to anything called church. Like my mother laid it out for us very, very early that she was an atheist, that she didn't believe in God, that she had been forced to go to all of these religious things as a child. And she told us very directly, I'm not going to do that to you all. I'm just not. I don't believe in it. I'm not going to do that to you. And so there was a lot of contention around that decision. So no, I did not grow up in church. I did not grow up under good Christian parents. um, as a matter of fact, the way we were raised, many people called us heathens to our face. Um, we were the little heathen kids in the neighborhood. Because we didn't do religion. We didn't go to anybody's church. A lot of times on a Sunday, we might be outside barefooted, just playing outside. And so that brought a lot of contention because my grandmother is a missionary. She wants her grandkids, believing what she believes. She wants them in the faith somewhere. She wants to bring us to church and parade us around as her little grandkids. And so that was a lot of contention. So let's read here what it talks about with religion. Converting or adopting a new religion can strain the relationship between parent and child, or having no religion at all. Religion impacts how you view the world, and in some cases, those views may cause a child to change the way they engage with family. When family members argue over doctrine, over history, and religious facts, then tensions or ruptures can ensue in some cases. Parents can be most comfortable with a child choosing to stay as the parents taught them. A considerable part of adulthood is deciding who you want to be. When your child chooses a different religious path, you can respect your child's preference to explore a new faith or no faith at all. Become curious about the new religion by seeking to learn more on your own and listen to what your child shares. Participate in activities around the new religion or no religion. Avoid heated conversations about religion that will lead to an argument, which is something my grandmother never did. She was always in an argument with my mother about her not wanting to go that religious route. Highlight the positive impacts of religion on your child's life. Whatever positive aspects there might have been, my mother did not pick them up. For her, religion was the last thing that she wanted to engage with, and it was the last thing she wanted to engage her children with. Unite around topics that have nothing to do with religion. Now, there were other things that my mother was good at. My mom was a classical pianist. She was trained, but guess what? She didn't want to play piano for her life. I don't know why, but she didn't want to. My mother was she was doing modeling. My mother was an incredibly beautiful woman in her younger years. Um, she didn't want to model. And so again, these were directions that people wanted her to go that she did not want to go, and you could not make her. Now let's look at substance misuse. As I said, alcoholism was an issue, and nicotine. But back then, a lot of people were heavy, heavy smokers. Um, we didn't have what we have today with all of the Surgeon General's warnings and all that. It was pretty cool back then to smoke. And so that's was my mom's thing. So look at this. Substance misuse can cause intolerable and unsafe shifts in a child's personality. Parents may choose to have firm and clear boundaries or manage the relationship from a distance. Now, I will say that my grandmother was not the person that pressed my mother about um, misuse of substances. Like she would share with her, hey, I don't think this is good. I don't think this is right. But she would also say, I'm also not going to support your substance misuse. I'm not going to enable you to the substance misuse. All right. Parents determine where they draw the line. And for some, no contact may be the healthiest option. In some cases, one parent may choose to handle the child in a way that doesn't make sense to the other parent. When a child has a substance misuse issue, different parenting styles, can range from denial to severing ties while the other parent maintains the relationship. It's unfortunate when parents disagree on how to have a relationship with children who misuse substances. Couples therapy could be a space for parents to acknowledge and sort through differences in handling perspectives about parenting. For example, Janine and her husband Ronald raised their grandchildren. Ronald refused to allow their daughter to see them after she lost custody of them. Janine occasionally spoke to her daughter by phone and allowed her to speak to the children. Now, we never got to that point where we had to be removed from our home or anything because of substance misuse. My mom was probably what would be classified as a functional alcoholic. So she could misuse, abuse alcohol and get up and be able to function even though she had misused. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people like that that are just they're functioning, but it is a case of misuse and abuse of substances. So tell me what you think down in the comments about these two reasons for strife. Have you had, if you are a parent, have you had some issues with either your children being connected to substance misuse? Or have you had to come into conflict with your children when it came down to your faith and your beliefs? I do know that some parents, it may not be a change of religion issue. Sometimes it is how we view our faith versus how someone else views their faith, right? We have some people now that are very, how can I say it, open sexually, right? But they still maintain their faith. If your parent is not very open sexually because they feel like within the faith it tells you not to do certain things or they interpret it that way, that, can still cause strife. Prime example. Let me give you one example. Um, your parent saying, hey, um, we don't believe in shacking up, for example. Well, what people call shacking up back in the day, which is living together with your partner and you're not married. We don't believe in that. Our faith, in their interpretation of their faith, says, hey, this is not right. That can cause a conflict because the parents may want to, you know, regulate your life, or when it comes to the holidays, right? You're with a partner, maybe you all have kids together and you're not married and your parent is insisting that, hey, if you come stay with us for the holidays or you come with us on this family trip or retreat, you guys need to have two separate rooms because our faith tells us you all shouldn't be in this space together doing what you do without that piece of paper. That's a religious conflict. All right. And some people go through that. Some people say, hey, let's sit down, let's talk this out. Let's decide how we are going to handle this so that we can respect each other's decisions. Your religious beliefs might tell you that we shouldn't do this. I don't have that kind of conviction around it, but I still love you as my parent and I still want to have a good relationship with you. So how can we compromise? How can we work this out? Maybe if we go on this trip together, we get our own space so that you all don't have to feel whatever about the life that we're choosing to live the way we're choosing to live it. But that's just an example. Now, Pastor Ben, are you still with us? Because I can't tell. I see Leslie and Co. Good morning, but I do not know if you are still here, Pastor Ben. So you have to say something down in the comments and let me know that you're still here. I will give you a moment. All right. Okay, I'm going to try to add you. Let's see if we can get this done. Here I go. So let's. All right, I have sent you the link. We've got about 10, 12 minutes here to chop it up. Hopefully you will see the link and you can add yourself. For those of you who are just coming in, we are talking about family dynamics, troubleshooting relationships with children, common reason for strife in the adult child / parent relationship. And we're talking about substance misuse and how that can cause strife, and religion or non-religion and how that can cause strife. Hopefully it will pop up and he will be added. Time will tell. Let me try to send it again. All right, I have sent it again. Hopefully. Hopefully you will see it. And I don't have my phone near me. Pastor Ben, do you see the link? I've sent it twice. YouTube has been acting a little interesting this morning. All right, he must not have received it. He might not have received it. All right, well, I'm going to end here if I cannot get him on. And I do want to thank you all for your time and attention. Pastor Ben, I'm assuming that it's not being sent to you or you can't find the link. So we will try again on tomorrow. Okay? We'll try again on tomorrow. But I do want to thank everybody for your time and for your attention. Thank you for coming to share reading time with me. Oh, there he is. All right. Yay, we get to have some talk back today. All right. Pastor Ben, are you there? All right. We've got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to let you have at it. Welcome, welcome
Okay.
back.
Okay.
Okay.
I
I
experienced with
experienced
my
with my
kids,
kids,
as I spoke many times, I
as I
always
spoke
try
many times, I
to
always try to
I tried to raise them gradually and groom them gradually into adulthood, prepared them for adulthood. I gave them decisions to make, but they both were good decisions. See, one may have been a little better than the other, but there wouldn't have been a negative outcome either way. And one was my son. His mom was getting married again. She wanted him to come to the wedding. I let him make that decision. I didn't say you're gonna be in your mom's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I explained it because the football team, he was playing pee wee football. And that particular weekend, they were going out of town to play in a bowl. So I let him make the decision. I paid for everything for him to go. And listen, if you want to go be in your mom's wedding, I said, that's up to you. You do that. I won't have an issue with it. Whatever you need for that, I'll provide it. He called his mom and he said, Mom, hold on. I can't be in your wedding. He said, my football team needs me. They're going out of town to play a game. And I'm going with them. She called me and she was all upset. I said, listen, I let him make his decision. Either decision with me was fine. Well, he's a child. You can't let him make his own decisions. Well, I do. That's what I do. Let the child make their decision. As I said, I wasn't going to force him to be at his mom's wedding when he wanted to be with his football team. I mean, now she's stood him up so many times anyway before that. So part of it probably had to do with that also, part of his decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So you pretty much brought this on yourself. So, and he also ended up, once allowed him to go live with her, he went through some things, ended up on cocaine. I found out he was on cocaine because I kept seeing the symptoms and I asked him about it. And the last thing you want to do to me is lie.
Mm-hmm.
As my child, you do not want to lie to me. Be honest with me, straight up, and that's the way I raised him. So he said, yeah, and then he said, I need help. I said, well, here's the thing. I can't help you. This is something you have to decide. Now, once you decide you want to do this, then fine. You can get plenty of help. A couple of years later, he decided on his own that he was going to stop. He did it on his own, locking himself in his room, not coming outside, not talking to anybody. The only person he talked to was his employer, who he explained everything to, and his employer came by every Friday to pay him, even though he wasn't working. Because he understood. His son went through the same thing, so that was a plus for him. That was support for him that he actually needed. So, you know, you have things like that. But here's the thing: the question that parents need to ask themselves: did I do my best in raising my child? That's it. If you think you did your best and you think you did a good job, what's left? Just support them. They're grown. Don't try to control them. You should have prepared them so they didn't need to be controlled.
And that's one thing I will say about my mom is that even though she has not been a part of the majority of my adult life, I feel like she did prepare me in the ways and in the things that I needed preparation in. She raised us to be very autonomous, um, and to not
Hmm.
rely on her to think for us. And so I do appreciate that. Like, She was very, here's what the choices are. Like I said, I was 4 or 5 when my mother explained to me that I might have heard something about God from my grandmother, but she also said, I don't believe in what your grandmother believes. I don't believe in God. And so I'm not going to. She explained that. She said, when I was a child, this is how your grandmother raised me. This is what we did. This is where she took us. And all of that stuff, she said, tired her out. It was very exhausting for her. She didn't feel connected to it. And then she also had the responsibility of taking care of her younger siblings. And so I still remember that conversation. She was
Mm-hmm.
she was like, I don't believe this. Let me tell you why. And then she was like, if you want to search for something, you can. But she was very adamant about not letting our grandmother force us into a route of thinking because she knew what it did to her. And so, again, I feel like, I look at people, in their conversations about having grown up in church and being a church baby and all these things. And I used to like, man, I wish, maybe I wish I had more of a, quote unquote foundational upbringing. But the older I get, the older I get, the more I understand what a gift it was for my mother to not try to frame God and shape God for me. That was a gift that she gave me. And so I have my own understanding of God and the creator because I had the freedom to look for God in my own way
Mm-hmm.
and search and study other religions and other faiths and talk to people and go to different environments. I did that myself when I got of age. I went on my own journey of studying different religions and visiting different sites and talking to different kinds of spiritual leaders. I was doing that at the beginning of my college education because I was like, okay, I heard what these people said. I heard what my grandma said. But I said, I'm tossing all of that and I'm going to go on a search. And that's what I did. My first semester of college, I went on my own spiritual search.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in my own spiritual search, I came back to Christ for myself and Christ consciousness. So that's how I arrived there. I did not arrive there by the quote unquote slave master's religion. So when I hear those conversations or people assuming that every black person that came to faith came by way of their parents or came by way of their grandparents, I have to say, mm, that is a stereotype. And I understand why it's a stereotype, but that is a stereotype. There are people who say, throw everything out and let me start from scratch and let me see what conclusion I come to, what makes the most sense to me, what resonates with me. And Christ is what resonated with me. Yes, I had an encounter when I was 12, 13 years old, um, but I didn't really fully understand that encounter. But when I chose and I went searching and seeking, that encounter came back and I began to understand that encounter. And so, like you said, allowing children to have that autonomy, allowing children to have those options, being able to make decisions. Like Leslie said down here in the chat, which I think is a good point. She said, he's a child. He's a child. You should know his schedule to plan your wedding. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, sometimes we're expecting children to be the adult in some cases in situations. And then Leslie, you said I love philosophy of great religious class in college too. Awesome. And see, I didn't even take a I didn't take a religions course. I was in the college libraries digging into stuff and searching myself. And then I would talk to the different religious heads of organizations on campus. Like we had, a Muslim person out there. We had the Baha'i faith was often out there. So I was just exploring. And I think because I got a chance to explore and not just settle into one thing, I think that was very helpful for me. Um, and I see that some people are doing that now, later in life. They're like, I've been in Christianity my entire life. I want to go see what else is out there, and that's fine. Um, but yeah, Pastor Ben, did you see that comment? Pastor Ben, did you see that comment from Leslie? She said your son is was a child, and the parent should have known the schedule, so known his schedule in planning her wedding.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
so it wasn't
Yes,
it wasn't
I see that. And his mom was that controlling type.
yeah.
She dictate, you respond. I operated in a different way. I understand, yes, you're a child. You're an individual.
Mhm.
You have your own mindset and your own thoughts. And that's how I always approach them. I would always give them a choice. I wouldn't dictate. Now, I did have my core set of rules, but anything outside of that, dealing with them on a personal level, that was okay. Let's discuss this. What are your plans for? You have any plans or anything that you may want to do such and such weekend? Well, no, daddy. Okay, so I want to plan this or I want to do this. That's the way I operated with them because they're growing and they're developing their own life.
Right.
See, so at that point, yes, you still got your core set of rules, which should be basic. But beyond that, you have to allow them the freedom to to make decisions or to do things. Now, I also had this now. If you were making plans based on something, and let's say time where you're going to go somewhere and be gone for a while, okay, let's talk about that. You know, but as far as you want to get involved in something in school, just say, look, Dad, such and such thing is happening. I need, just listen. You know, if it was involved in school, you didn't have to ask.
Mhm.
Just let me know and tell me what you need. That's the way I stood on that. But now their mom was different. It was control everything, every aspect, every breath, every meal.
Yeah, and we talked about that before about when you're no longer in the household with the same parents, you've got to as parents you've got to come to a decision or a compromise at some point. Um, those different dynamics of raising your children.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie says in the comments here, I'm not surprised. Your curriculum is stellar, and you've obviously dug in deep to many cultures and religions. Thank you. We on Theology Thursdays we dig in. Right now we're looking at the history of Christianity within America, but we have done extensive studies and overviews of different religions here in some of our previous seasons. So yeah, we want to know what other people think, what other people believe, and how those things intersect with our own beliefs. One thing I know about the Creator is He does not have a difficulty reaching us if we want to be reached. That's all I'm going to say about it. Um, For those who reach out to the divine, for those who are searching for meaning making in life. Why? What on earth am I here for? I believe the Creator will reach out to you and let you know. Leslie also says sometimes you have to let the other parent show who they are and leave it right there for your child to notice. Listen.
I did.
She also said here when you teach accountability by example, they notice who does not have it and why it is necessary. Now, that is a
Hmm.
word. That is a word, Leslie.
Listen,
Sometimes you have to let the parent do what it do and let the child notice.
and both of those things are why they cling to me more. Both of them. I mean, they distance themselves from their mom. That's their mom, so they still have some communication with them.
Mhm.
But I am the one that basically get those phone calls almost every day, or every 2, 3 times a week, just to check and see how I'm doing, or just to have a conversation.
Mhm.
My son will be 46 next month, and he still called me to run things by me, or to ask for advice, or my opinion on something. He
Yeah.
won't do that with his mom.
Leslie down here in the comments says our own beliefs and the origin of those beliefs is a wonderful way to clarify why we are drawn to God. Yes, and we talk about that often here. Um, I try to share my story or parts of my story because really I probably should be writing a book um, of the ways in which I've encountered the Creator to know that there is a Creator and that reality is true for me. I've had too many unexplainable things happen. I've had too many times that my life has been in danger and I have miraculously been saved from the danger in ways that is unexplainable to people. And so for me, it makes sense for me to believe in a creator because I've seen the creator personally intervene in my life. So it makes
Hmm.
sense for me. Leslie says it's hard to let them find out, but you cannot change it and you can't pretend you can change it. Talking about that relationship with your child to the parent. Awesome.
Right.
100% the same. Final thoughts for today. Final thoughts for today.
Parents, our job is to prepare them. I've said this before. Prepare our children for adulthood. Prepare them to leave the nest.
Mhm.
Prepare them to be independent. Teach them to be independent. Think on their own. We're supposed to be that support system or that last resort, not to be dependent upon. They're no longer supposed to be our dependents. While yes, we are supposed to still be there to support them when they need it,
Mhm.
and that's what we're raising them for. And then when they have kids, they pass that same thing on.
And I will say, in this economy, I am seeing people go back to more communal living. But even in communal living, you still need some independence.
Hmm.
I know a lot of people that their extended family lives together. Grandmother, mother, sometimes an aunt or an uncle, and then their spouse or their partner and their children. Sometimes you have enough space where you can do communal living, but everybody still has their independence, right? And then people are contributing to the needs of the overall household, but it's people still have their independence. That works for some families. And especially in this economy, a lot of people are choosing to go that route. My husband, who is an architect, excuse me, is working with several clients right now who are building what they call their family estate or their family compound, where they have several homes on the property, or they have the mother-in-law suite that sits off from the main house. So people are thinking about, you know, creating the more communal side of living And that works when you have good relationships with your extended family.
Hmm.
It does not work, and it's not so happy thing when those communal extended relationships are not as good. But I will say there is an uptick of that. People are requesting build outs for their homes that make sure that they have space to expand and invite more people in to live. And so I think it's a beautiful thing when it can work. Leslie says, I had to share my home with friends to make ends meet when my child was growing up. I think he was influenced in a good way by getting to know different people. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are several people now too that are also doing that. Friends moving in with friends, mothers who have two sets of children moving in to live together. Again, it goes back to that communal living, that communal life. And so do what works for you. Do what brings about and builds healthy relationships for you. We saw this past weekend the devastating tragedy of what happened in Louisiana. We're going to continue to talk about those things. We are out of time today, but we might touch on it on tomorrow. So I want to thank you for your time, for your attention, for those who stopped in, said, hey, they peeked their head in, and I know they'll be back to catch the replay. Thank you all so much for your time and your attention. Yes, we need the support, and we can do more for our kids together. Awesome. Awesome. Very true. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I also want to invite you to come back and join us tomorrow. We're going to be reading from Jamar Tisby's work, The Spirit of Justice. He has several curriculums going on right now, several what do you call it, like self-paced curriculums. You can check him out if you want to get more information about Christian nationalism and how you can combat it. JamarTisby.com is his site, but we're reading from his book tomorrow, The Spirit of Justice, True Stories of Faith, Race, and Resistance. And then we're also going to be reading from Reparations, a Christian call for repentance and repair. This was written back in 2020 when everybody's eyes were being opened to what happened with George Floyd and people were more open to the truth. I'm so glad that they took the time to write this work in the season in which it was written because from reading, we know that people know it's time for reparations to occur. So they can't go back and say, oh, we didn't know because the information is here and out here, and we're sharing it with you on tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to any evil happening in the world. So let's do our part to go out and be what?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. Be well, and most importantly, be light.